Well, as mentioned, you've been very active, probably the most that I've seen, at least, in this campaign on social media by posting videos and things like that.
Thank you.
One video in particular singled out and criticised the infrastructure minister for temporary road changes. Are you capitalising on temporary issues here to get votes?
Sure. So what I'm hearing loud and clear is the anger of people in Annaka and in Pulrose and in Belafton who are having their lives disrupted here. And so what I'm hearing from these people is that these roadworks, it's not just a theoretical issue. It actually makes a concrete difference to their lives. And that's what I'm here about. And that's why I'm running. Because there's a woman in Annaka who told me how it took her an hour and 40 minutes to drive from her home down to the Brom to drop her child off at Sandcastle's nursery and then back round. So she's gone through the full trifecta of mess. And so that's why I'm running, is to give a voice to those people, because that affects people's lives.
It's temporary, though. If you were to be elected, they'd be gone a week after your election.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to make sure that to hold the government to account on that. We've got to be careful here that this government, sometimes does not always honour its temporary commitments. So, for example, they promised years ago that the storage of the silt would be only temporary, and now we see, as reported on Manx Radio this week, they're now applying for a permanent permission to store the toxic silt. And so that's why it's really important that we have a strong voice for Douglas South, someone who will be our representative to the government instead of the government's representative to us.
We've also discussed that some emotive, controversial language. You've been very vocal on sexual offenders, and you want tougher punishments. Now, you've used, as I say, emotive language. Is this a campaign of populism?
Well, hopefully it's a popular campaign, because I've heard loud and clear that the people of Douglas South want people who are convicted of indecently assaulting a child to be sent to prison. I spoke to a neighbour of one of the men who was arrested earlier this week, and he told me about the fear that he had for his child, and that passion and what I was really impressed about was this man who has children, who lives in close proximity to the man who was arrested just recently. He was nervous. And he's almost like a watchdog over his children, and so he was very nervous for the safety of his child. But what was really impressive about that man is that he recognised that the accused also has a right to a fair trial, and so that concept of a fair trial, which was invented just across the water from here about 800 years ago, is really core to the Manx and British spirit, which is about having a fair go for the accused, but also having justice. And so
you've described them in some of your videos and your statements as monsters. It doesn't seem like language that appreciates the mental health issues that might be at play.
Sure. So I recognise that there are some people who think that sexual attraction for young children is a mental illness. I've heard those arguments. I disagree with them, and so let me be very clear. I will be a very strong voice for the what should really I would have thought would be an uncontroversial proposition, that if you're convicted of sexually assaulting a child, you should go to prison. And my position is very clear, because I've heard loud and clear from the people of Douglas South that that's what they want, and so I think it's really appropriate that we live in a democracy, and our laws should reflect our values as a community. And if we believe that sexually assaulting a child is wrong, as I'm sure that we all do, then it is appropriate for our justice system to be fair, but also to ensure that appropriate prison sentences do flow from that.
As an MHK, how are you hoping to make that happen?
Sure. So we've got the third reading of the Sexual Offences Bill coming up later this year. I've already made personal representations to various members of Tynwald. I met with Tanya August-Hansen, who has been taking the bill through the Legislative Council a mere couple of months ago, well before this campaign was even a thing. And I met with her privately to express the views that I heard from our community. But also to talk about some of the details of different bits of that. More recently, when the man who was the father of the children who lived in close proximity to the man who was arrested this week, I represented his views to the minister. I wrote a letter to the minister, and these things all happen in the background. You don't see that on social media, and so I think that one of the things that's really important here is that there's a lot of stuff that happens in the background, and so I think it's really important to give a voice to those people who for personal reasons might not want to be publicly identified.
And just finally, because we are, as I say, trying to do this in 5-minute slots, what is your top priority? Because we've heard about some priorities. What's the most important?
Number one thing that I've heard is the importance of jobs, because everything flows from there, and that's why I'll be such a strong voice for jobs. To oppose the proposal we've heard from other candidates, increase taxes. I'm very clear is that the household budget is already stretched, and so I'm going to be a strong voice against increasing taxes. And so the thing that flows also from jobs is the ability to care for our senior citizens, the ability to provide a robust and healthy and local and accessible health service. Everything flows from the jobs and the economy that is so important. And so my number one priority that I've heard from the people of Douglas South has been unreservedly jobs, jobs, jobs.